Melissa, Sue.
Clint.
Please take a moment and think about the last meal you had at home. One that maybe you went shopping for. It doesn't matter whether you got fresh produce from a farmer's market or if you're just picking up a frozen microwave dinner. The reason why I bring this up is because a lot of people don't think about what they're buying or consuming, especially when it comes to food. It turns out, based on a lot of recent studies, that there is a large knowledge gap between consumers and what they think they have knowledge about with their food and what the industry does have knowledge about. And when I talk about the industry, I'm talking about the manufacturers, the scientists who are creating and making this food. And so what I want to bring up is one example in particular, and that's in regards to what's called GMOs, or genetically modified organisms. Now, you may have heard of GMOs, but just in case you're not sure exactly what they are, a GMO is an organism that has been altered genetically, either through, not either through mating or natural recombination. And so you might ask, why is it being modified? Well, there can actually be a lot of benefits to modifying an organism for the purposes of growing food. We're talking about even down to seeds here. A scientist in a laboratory will take material from one organism and put it into other in order to strengthen it. This will make it so that it can withstand herbicides, pesticides, all of that, and it can grow much more plentifully. And so you might think, well, isn't that a good thing? Don't we want our food to be stronger, to be able to grow better and more plentifully? And while the answer may be yes, how we get there is something that we should perhaps be more questioning. And this is something that we have questioned, especially from the World Health Organization. Throughout the last couple decades, they've actually continuously deemed GMOs to be really untested, unused, and so this is a big concern for us, especially when it comes to antibiotics. This is a method that GMOs are used most often in order to strengthen a crop. If you add an antibiotic marker to an organism, that will make it so that it withstands germs, withstands things that will destroy the crops. But the problem is that with a lot of antibiotics, you can actually end up making the germs stronger, as is with the case with in the 1980s when a lot of beef feed was being genetically engineered to withstand bacteria. Well, it turns out that a lot of people that ended up eating that beef ended up getting mad cow's disease, and they didn't find out until at least a decade later. And so, while that's not a predominant situation with regards to GMOs, those types of situations can occur, and is something that we should possibly be concerned about. Well, it turns out that people today, within the last few years, are concerned. They have some knowledge to what GMOs are, but have been exposed a lot in their knowledge. And this was in regards to a study that was recently done by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. They found that people thought that they knew a lot about what GMOs were, what constituted a GMO, which crops could be a GMO, and they were really off. For instance, 92% of corn that is manufactured and put into food today is GMO. It's modified, it's been engineered. But people participating in this particular study only thought that it was about half of that. They also thought about half of all wheat was also genetically modified. But it turns out that actually no genetically modified crops of wheat are available. So it really just kind of highlights this gap that has taken place between people and their knowledge of the industry. The study became much more important when it took into account, it asked participants whether or not that they should have labels on GMO food when you go to the grocery store. Well, everyone was predominantly in favor of that. But when they continue to ask them who might be putting these labels on the food, they predominantly respond with the experts, right? Well, they're not really sure what the experts are in these circumstances. In a lot of cases, it turns out to be the scientists whose careers, whose professions are supported by GMOs in general. And so, with that, I'll kind of leave you with this thought that maybe it's better, maybe it is a better practice for us as consumers to be more involved in that process. We are the ones eating this food. We should be deciding really whether or not labels should be on part of this or that, or what is really going into our bodies.